At 12:42, my dog was walking perfectly. At 12:43, he turned to stone. He didn't just stop, he dropped, chest pressed to the concrete, ears locked forward. He wasn't tired, he wasn't hurt, he was listening. This was the fourth night in a row he froze at this exact second, and he was looking at the exact same house. The night before, same spot, 12:41. The night before that, 12:38. Whatever was happening here only happened after midnight. I need to rewind 2 weeks. He's 4 years old, shepherd mix. We walk this route twice a day, morning at 7, night at 11:30. No behavioral issues, no reactivity, no history of freezing or refusing commands. He sits when I ask. He waits at crosswalks. He heels beside me without pulling. This section of Maple Street, 4 houses down from the corner, 100 feet from the intersection, nothing about it stood out. March 22nd, that changed. 11:47 that night, he was walking normally toward the spot. Then he slowed, stopped, lowered himself into that same position. I waited 7 seconds before saying anything. By 12:41, he was still there. The next morning at 7:15, we passed the same spot. He didn't slow down, didn't look at it, just kept walking. By night 3, I was checking timestamps. March 23rd, 12:38. March 24th, 12:41. March 25th, 12:43. Same window every time. 12:38 to 12:51. Somewhere in there, he'd lie down. By 1 in the morning, he'd stand up, shake once, and walk home like nothing happened. Morning walks stayed normal. He passed the spot without reacting. I started looking at what he was looking at. His body wasn't random. His front paws pressed flat into the concrete. Weight forward, not resting. His attention never moved, always facing the house directly across the street. Single-story ranch, beige siding, dark windows, porch light off. I scanned the ground with my phone flashlight. Nothing there. No objects, no scent markers I could see. The fence behind him bordered a residential yard. No dogs, no animals visible. By night 6, I was writing it down. March 28th, 12:36 arrival, 12:52 departure. 16 minutes. March 29th, 12:38 arrival, 12:51 departure. 13 minutes. March 30th, 12:41 arrival, 12:49 departure. 11 minutes. Never more than 20, never less than 8. I went through the obvious explanations first. Maybe he was being stubborn. I brought treats, shook the bag near his head. His ears flicked, he heard me, but he didn't turn. I dropped a treat beside his nose. He didn't look at it. That wasn't stubbornness. I tried timing it differently. One night I walked us past the spot at 11:52, before midnight. He walked normally, kept going another 50 feet down the sidewalk. Then I turned us around. By the time we reached the spot again, it was 12:39. He stopped, lowered himself down. I tried approaching from the opposite direction another night, 12:02. He slowed at the same location, lay down facing the other way. Direction didn't matter. On day 9, I took him to the vet. Physical exam came back normal. Gait analysis, normal. No inflammation, no pain response when they checked his legs and hips. The paperwork had nothing to write in the diagnosis section. That afternoon, I took him to a different park. He healed perfectly. I gave him commands. Sit, down, stay. Immediate compliance every time. But that night at 12:44, back at the spot, he lay down again. I sat on the curb beside him and waited. 13 minutes later, he stood up and we walked home. Everywhere else, he listened. Everywhere but here. By the second week, I stopped watching the street and started watching him. His ears stayed fully forward, rigid, his. Breathing changed, deeper, slower than normal resting rhythm. I could see it in the cold air. When I touched his shoulder, he didn't react. His muscles were tense under his coat, but he didn't flinch. He didn't acknowledge me at all. His eyes stayed fixed on the house across the street, pupils wide, no scanning, no blinking. I kept expecting him to bark, to growl, something. He never made a sound. This wasn't the alert posture I'd seen at the park or when another dog approached. This was different. His front claws gripped the concrete slightly. His weight pressed down, not resting. He wasn't scared. He was waiting. On day 16, I looked at the house during daylight. Nothing unusual. No signs. Mailbox with a number on it. Yard maintained but not pristine. One window had blinds, one had curtains. No cars in the driveway. Garage door closed. No activity I could see. That night, March 31st, I decided to arrive earlier. 11:58. I positioned us across the street from the house and watched. All the lights were off. No movement. By 12:14, still nothing. At 12:33, he started pulling toward his usual spot. I followed. He lay down in the same position. I crouched beside him and pulled out my phone, opened the voice memo app, and held it toward the house. Recorded for 20 seconds. When I played it back later, there was nothing. Light wind. A single cricket. Ambient noise. I stood up and walked 10 feet closer, stopped at the curb, looked at the windows. The house was completely dark. No glow from inside. No TV. No movement behind the glass. I could see the porch light was off. There was a doorbell camera with a small red LED. The mailbox had mail in it. The flap was slightly open. I couldn't see the postmark dates from where I stood. The next morning at 8:14, I walked past again. Same mail, still in the box. No cars, no visible activity. I pulled out my phone and looked at the non-emergency number. My finger hovered over it for 5 seconds. I didn't press it. I didn't know what I'd say. My dog won't walk past your house after midnight. That's not a reason. That night, 12:39, we were back. He lay down. I sat on the curb. This time I watched the house more than I watched him. A car passed behind us. Headlights swept across the front of the house. Nothing changed. At 12:51, he stood up. But I didn't move. He looked back at me. I stayed seated, watching the house. He sat down beside me and waited. 12:52. The second window from the left, a light flickered. Not a switch, a flicker. Like a flashlight beam crossing behind the curtain. It lasted less than a second. Then nothing. Someone was inside. I called the non-emergency line the next morning, gave them the address, told them the mail had been sitting for days and I'd seen a light but no one was answering the door. I didn't mention the dog. An hour later, I was standing across the street when a patrol car pulled up. Single officer. He walked to the front door and knocked. 8 seconds. No answer. He walked around the side of the house, looked through windows, came back to his cruiser. Talked on the radio. 3 minutes later, a second vehicle arrived. Both officers knocked again, louder. No answer. They tried the door handle. Locked. They moved to the back of the house. I couldn't see them for 45 seconds. Then an ambulance arrived. No sirens, lights on. The EMTs took a gurney to the front door. The officers had opened it from inside. 4 minutes later, the EMTs came out with someone on the gurney, covered with a blanket, oxygen mask visible. They loaded them into the ambulance. It left without sirens. One of the officers walked over to me, asked if I lived nearby. I told him I was just a neighbor who'd noticed the mail. He nodded, gestured toward the house, shook his head slightly, and walked back to his cruiser. That afternoon, I saw the neighbor from the house next door outside. I asked what happened. He told me it was Mr. Chen. Lived alone. Had a daughter in Portland, but she didn't visit much. He hadn't seen him in maybe 5 days. Thought he was traveling. The officer said Mr. Chen had fallen, hit his head. They didn't know when. Could have been a week. The carbon monoxide detector had been going off. Low battery chirp. That's what the officer heard from outside. Mr. Chen never heard it. April 7th. First walk after. We approached the spot at 11:43. He didn't slow down, didn't look toward the house, just kept walking. The porch light was on now, living room light visible through the window. There was a car in the driveway. 3 nights later, 12:41, we walked past again. His gait stayed normal, no hesitation. Over the next 3 weeks, he never stopped there, not once. I'd stop sometimes, stand there for a moment. He'd keep walking, leash going taut, looking back at me, waiting. Mr. Chen recovered, moved in with his daughter 2 weeks later. The house sold in June. I never figured out what he was reacting to, but after midnight, for 18 nights, he knew someone needed help. And when they didn't anymore, he stopped.